Bill Gates barely needs any introduction. I will simply remind you he is one of the world's richest people, and he has dedicated a large share of his fortune and his expertise to fighting diseases. He has now taken a lead role in the search for a vaccine and a cure for the coronavirus. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is funding factories for each of the 7 most promising ideas for a vaccine, even though Gates freely admits that only 1 or maybe 2 of them will actually be used. I'm now joined by Bill Gates. Pleasure to have you on, Bill.
Good to see you.
So if you were to explain to people in general, would you tell them that we now know the coronavirus is more deadly, more transmissible, less transmissible? How do you characterize this one?
Well, we know that if we do these extreme social isolation measures, we get the reproductive rate below 1, which means that the total number of active infections starts to go down. What we don't know is we go slightly back to normal, which activities create the risk of a rebound. And so we need to put into place a very dense testing regime so you would detect that rebound going back into the exponential growth very quickly and not wait for the ICUs to fill up and there to be lots of deaths. You know, if you see the hot spot, you can understand the activities causing that, change policy there and get it back down to into the decline. So that the brute force tactic that was used did work. It worked in every country. But that's caused such immense damage. Now we want to back off from that. And we're a little naive about how to prioritize those activities. We need the testing. We need strong leadership where the scientific community and the politicians are saying, okay, what's the value? Things like school obviously have a very high value if we can figure out a format that's not driving a lot of infection.
So you talk about testing. Everybody talks about it. And it seems bizarre, just from the outside, that it would be so hard. I mean, this is the richest country in the world. People have made analogies to wars. During World War II, the United States went from a standing start, 0 planes, to being able to produce a plane every 63 minutes in one of the Ford factories. Why can't testing be ramped up to the million-a-day level that a lot of people, experts believe would be necessary to help reopen?
Yeah, so it looks like with new machines and using them in a better way, we'll be able to get up to 400,000 or 500,000 a day. That's just barely enough for really doing the tracking. There's some very innovative ways of running those machines or eventually getting the strip test that could take us to higher numbers. The key thing about the US, though, is this focus on the number of tests understates the cacophony and the mistakes we've made in our testing system. The access to that testing system is very unequal. The wrong people are being tested, and anytime you don't get results in less than 24 hours, the value of the test is dramatically reduced. And so the US is unique in terms of it's who you know, whether you get in the front of the line, asymptomatics can get in front of the line, and you get these lines that are way too long.
Let me ask you about the vaccine that that you've been so involved in. So when I talk to experts, there's a range of views. One of which is, look, we may not get a vaccine. We don't have vaccines against some other coronaviruses. There are some viruses for which you don't get one. And on the other side, people telling me, well, with so many efforts being made like yours, the government is also doing one, the British government is doing one, the Chinese are undoubtedly doing one, we'll actually end up with a vaccine much faster than people are predicting.
Well, it's very hard to compress these time frames. And, if everything went perfectly, we'd be in scale manufacturing within a year. We may not achieve that. It could be as long as 2 years. There's over 100 efforts. What we need to do is pick the most promising of those, get money, so we're going full speed, build the manufacturing in parallel, some of which is shared, like the fill finish, which is the last step, where there's nowhere near the capacity for the 7 billion doses. So we need to do that.
But are you optimistic it'll be on the shorter end? I mean, I've heard people say maybe by December we could imagine starting production.
No. I mean, I don't, Moderna, you have to do these phase 3 studies that help you understand if somebody has a condition X or Y or Z, does it create a side effect? You know, there's people with defective immune systems. There's all sorts of things. So the size of the phase 3, the global regulators are going to have to get together and decide how many people, what length of time that goes in. And you'll have to trial where there's a very heavy infection rate. So, you know, the idea of being in manufacture by the end of the year, that's beyond my what's likely. Dr. Fauci and I have, you know, been fairly consistent in saying 18 months to not create expectations that are too high, because this influences, short of a miracle set of therapeutics, this influences when we get to go back to true normal.